Yeah, and then just going back to 925 this morning, I talked a little bit about workplace wellness. Are we ever going to get around to addressing it? And if there was a culture at work where you popped outside at lunchtimes to have an informal kick around. In fact, Paul, we had a go on Friday at Mend. Andy, who's taken on a kind of wellness champion role, he sort of popped a little note out, sort of say, bring some comfortable shoes. We're going to have a kick around today at lunchtime, and nobody went out because we're all so hooked to our screens, aren't we? So breaking that cultural cycle.
I think the heat wave didn't help.
No, that's true.
We're not used to exercising in the sun. We're much more used to exercising when it's rainy and sort of cold.
Yeah. Right. Lady in the red top. And then there's one at the very back.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My name's Hilary Curtis. I wasn't going to ask this, but because the last question was actually about how we make sure people continue into adulthood, I'd like to ask what the panel's views are on the current official government recommendation for adults, which is 30 minutes, moderate, minimum 5 days a week. Given that as long ago as 2007, the American College of Sports Medicine and I think it's the American Heart Association, from which these recommendations ultimately derive, clarified its recommendations to say it's either that as a minimum or it's 20 minutes of vigorous activity on 3 days a week. And also everyone should do some resistance as well. The reason I raise this is because actually I think for many people's lifestyles, 30 minutes 5 times a week is actually really challenging to fit in. And also moderate exercise is not necessarily motivating and invigorating and stimulating in the way that vigorous exercise can be. And I actually think that if you're dealing with an overall recommendation for all adults, as opposed to necessarily for older people who already got incipient heart disease, the fact that we're not making that more vigorous exercise, more vigorous recommendation as part of the official range of options recommended, I think is possibly giving people the message that, the recommendation is unachievable, therefore I'm going to do nothing. Whereas actually, they might be able to do the 20 minutes 3 times a week vigorous. And I just wanted, the panel's views on that.
They're about to change. It's about to get, I think in around 6 months' time, the word on the academic street is, which I link into every now and again, and there's going to be a requirement for more vigorous activity. So that's only going to increase. So I suppose, again, it's about the education process of what that means and how people can access it. But I suppose that's why I referenced it earlier. It's a moving beast at the minute in terms of what the recommendations are and will be.
Ken, have a quick go, and then we'll try and get one more question in. So.
Yeah. But first of all, that recommendation came from 1993, and it was British. It was the Health Education Authority led that 30 minutes before the Americans did, because I was at the conference where it was devised. The CMO report of 2004, which set that in concrete, actually didn't deny that vigorous activity was useful for those people who are already doing vigorous activity. The problem with that approach has been that the recommendations for public health, and they're trying to get people to do at least moderate activity, which is a challenge in itself, because only about 10% do regularly vigorous activity. It's a very, very low percentage, even from the Sports Council figures. Absolutely. You can't get people to do it. Now, you may find it really invigorating, but the vast majority of the population clearly don't, because they don't do it. So the challenge is getting people from zero. The challenge is getting people from zero to doing moderate activity. Now, you're right, the recommendations are going to be changed, and it's going to be a recognition that those people who are ready to do vigorous activity, they should be doing that if they fancy it. So it is an omission, okay? But I don't think it's of significance to public health, that point.
I suspect it may be in terms of bridging from the young, from the teenager into the adult, because that may be the point at which, you can keep people in vigorous if you get that message across that that's also okay.
Right, one final question, and it was somebody at the back.
Hello, my name is Anja. I'm from the Laban Centre in Deptford, so at a dance conservatoire. I just wanted to say we've been speaking a lot about sports, kind of typical sports today, but we, in a way, completely forgot about the more creative industries, such as dance. We're running a very successful project in Lewisham at the moment. We've got a number of men graduates with us that haven't missed a single session in a year. And one of the quotes was, "I hate exercise, but I love dance."
Yeah,
and I think sometimes in the conversations where we're so focused on numbers and targets and achievements that we kind of forget about the fun factor and the creativity, and also in terms of inclusivity and working with disability. Dance really ticks a lot of those boxes as well, because it's creative, it's enjoyable, it works on fitness levels as well, and it's something that they can enjoy for life.
Totally agree. In fact, Mike and I,
we want to throw that in.
And it's well thrown actually, right from the very back. Mike and I spent a great evening, didn't we, at the dance festival down in Greenwich, and it's been a big player in your project.
Certainly, as part of Sport Unlimited, dance has been there. I mean, our main remit at Sport England is, as our name suggests, sport, but we see that particularly for children and young people, that's very, very wide. In the 5-hour offer for children and young people, dance has played a huge, huge role, not just, the kind of more aerobic sides, but including the creative, and not just for girls, actually. So I think it's got a really important role to play.
Any other panelists?
I would agree. I think dance fantastic. I grew up in South Africa, and you just had to put music on, and children as young as 2 would just start moving. So children naturally move to music, and I think universally we find that children like music, playing games to music, dancing to music, and music should be used wherever you have groups of kids to try and get them active. So I think I would agree with you.
And just to re-emphasise that, our most popular by far classes that we run in our centres are all based around dance. Breakdance, street dance, Zumba, and then with Ashley Banjo and his diversity crew being something of popular culture now, kids have got, iconic role models to look at and want to, be like, essentially.
Great. I think looking to wherever Jane's gone, are we on one more? Jane, I'll leave it to you to decide, because you've got no women up here. You put me into trouble once. Oh, gosh, lady. We had to go for a lady, obviously.
I'm a research scientist here in London. I'm Stephanie Bale, and I work in the field of fetal programming or maternal programming. And now there's a lot of evidence to suggest that what mothers are eating when pregnant and breastfeeding can influence the development and growth of children. And there's a direct physiological link between the mother's diet and the early onset of obesity in children. And today we've heard a lot about tackling obesity in children through a good diet and exercise, but I was wondering if anything was being done to tackle obesity before birth by raising awareness in pregnant women and encouraging them to eat healthily when pregnant and breastfeeding as well.
Yeah. Paul, Sasha, have a
that's a very good question. There's a lot of research now, particularly around programming. So there's key risk factors in the first year of life, things like weaning, breastfeeding, gaining excessive weight, that can actually predict whether a child will go on to become an obese child and then an adult. There's a lot of work happening in terms of obesity in pregnancy, and NICE is just about to launch its recommendations, I think, in July. And they're actually going to advise that we don't intervene during pregnancy. There is not enough evidence around interventions during pregnancy, and the interventions that have been done haven't been shown to be cost effective. So I think what they're going to conclude is that the times to intervene are pre-conception, so before mums get pregnant, and we heard a bit about that earlier, making sure their diet's adequate, that they are, an ideal weight. And then also within the first year of life, because a lot of women after they have their baby are very motivated to lose weight and obviously still have the infant feeding, the weaning and the breastfeeding at the top of their mind, which is why we have we've put together a kind of a steering group of 20 academics, midwives, health visitors, GPs, obstetricians, gynecologists, and we've actually developed the Men Mums program, which is a postnatal weight management program targeted at mums from 2 months after delivery up until 12 months, specifically focusing on that sort of first year of baby's life, that key time, but focusing on mum and signposting to all the things like breastfeeding and weaning, because NICE is going to recommend that those are the key times to intervene. So unfortunately, as far as I know, they're not going to be recommending that women are even weighed during pregnancy apart from the first sort of booking in session.